right. Morning. Let's see, we still need to shuffle some stuff around on this side. And get the links. Chat. Almost there. Oh, I see. So I can get the top. Okay. Did we set the right scene? Yes, we have sound from the microphone, it looks like. Okay. So, here we go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tim. I go by Fomaguy on GitHub and Discord. This morning, we are working on some more CircuitPython stuff. Stream this time almost every week. I definitely take some weeks off here and there, but almost every week we stream at this time. We work on CircuitPython stuff. Generally speaking, usually different stuff from week to week, but always something somewhere involved with CircuitPython. Today, this morning, we are working with iSpy Display Breakout, which is a new way to make connection to displays from CircuitPython. Let me back up also a little bit as well, just for anybody who might be like brand new or watching this video in the future. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me just mention up top, CircuitPython is the project we're talking about on this stream. This is the website for it, circuitpython.org. You can learn more about it there. Basically, this is a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, such as this one here, the main chip there. Well, I don't know how the breakdown works with this one, I guess. I think the main chip is still there in the center, and that's just Wi-Fi. Any which way, though, there's a computer inside this thing, and we can write Python code to interact with other stuff that it's connected to via the pins, or in this case, it has Wi-Fi on board, so we can communicate with the internet, do all sorts of stuff like that. CircuitPython runs on all sorts of these little microcontroller devices. If you go to the downloads page here, you can see a bunch of different pictures of all sorts of different shapes and sizes of these things. The one I have here right now in front of the camera, this is a Raspberry Pi Pico W, which is the Wi-Fi version of the Raspberry Pi Pico. We'll probably end up using some other ones by the time we get done today, but that's the first one that I have loaded up there. So that's what CircuitPython is all about. If you are interested in the project, like I said, head to circuitpython.org. Join us over on the Discord as well, which is linked down below, I believe. I always check this. Yeah, it's still there. I don't know. I feel like there's one scene where it's not there, but it usually is when I check, so maybe I should just start trusting. But the Discord there, that's the chat that is on the screen below me as well. We're in the live broadcast chat during the streams. There's also other channels there that are active at different times of day for CircuitPython, getting help with things, all sorts of other sort of maker and electronics related stuff. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, join us over there. And then I'll say as well, thank you to Adafruit. This is their website, adafruit.com. Adafruit is the company that pays the folks who work on the CircuitPython project. So they pay a core team of folks to work on the project full time. They pay some folks like me to work on the project part time. And all of it is made possible by selling hardware from Adafruit, from their website. So if you want to get yourself some toys to play with, if you want to get yourself some of these microcontrollers that support CircuitPython, or any of the stuff that you can connect up to these microcontrollers to play with, they've got you covered. Head over to adafruit.com. Thank you for purchasing hardware from them if you would like, because that does help us keep everything moving in the CircuitPython world. In particular, today I'm working with a relatively newer thing. It's not like brand new. It's been out for a couple of weeks at this point, couple of months, maybe a month or two. Forget when it was first introduced. But this is the idea of iSpy breakouts for displays. So you have a connector, an iSpy breakout, or ultimately this is really just a breakout for this ribbon cable. Theoretically, you could potentially just have this connector on devices. There could just be a feather that has this connector that you could hook up to a display or something one day. Or other types of devices like that. So that could be interesting as well. Right now, what's available, though, is the breakout. So this breakout here breaks out all the pins in the ribbon cable. You can then connect those over to your microcontroller with wires. And then from your screen to that breakout is this ribbon cable here. And so it just makes the wiring much easier, especially if we do, like I was talking about, especially once we do get to a point where this connector is kind of built into other microcontrollers. Of course, here you still have wires, right? You still have the SPI bus wires. So, there is still some wiring at play, but like if this was on your main board, then you now just have a ribbon cable, which is quite nice. And even still, you have a nice clean connection that you can get in different lengths if you want. This stuff can get cut to different lengths, and it can wrap around corners, and it can fold up if it needs to. If you're trying to build like an enclosed project and keep everything all nice and neat, this ribbon cable is a great way to help organize your wiring. So that is what we're going to try to hook up. It is my first time hooking it up, so we'll just kind of work through it and see how it goes. I've got a couple of different ones. I guess, what do we want to start with? It doesn't really matter. 240 by 240. These are pretty similar. Good morning, Jose. I saw your comments on some of the old Display.io stuff as well. I need to get into there and see more specifically what you said. I saw those come by, though. It's great to see you around, by the way, Jose. I hope everything has been going well for you. Hope you're having a good day and a good weekend as well, but yeah, it's really nice to see you popping back around. Seen your name pop up a little bit the last couple of days. So this is a 1. It doesn't actually say on there. It's a 1.54 240 by 240. So it's this sort of little, it's like postage stamp sized thing there. It's got on the back the ribbon cable connector that we're going to connect to the iSpy breakout, and then it's got the SD card connector as well, which you could put a micro SD card into and then use it to load. The idea is like you could use it to put your media that you want to show on the screen. So if you have images, you can store those on the SD card and not use up kind of the relatively precious space that's available on the actual microcontroller flash. It was on deep sleep. Nice. Yeah. Well, you got to get recharged. Got to get recharged sometimes. It's definitely a truth. So let's see. So do we want to wire the ribbon first or the wires, jumper wires first? I think we wire the jumper wires first, right? Because I'm probably going to have to kind of pick it up and move it around a bunch. And that sounds easier to do before the ribbon cable is connected. So we need to basically connect the SPI bus as well as well, like chip select pins, a couple other things. I think it's actually labeled this way around, is it? May not be able to make it out all the way through the camera there, but it's like reset pin. I don't know what that first one is. There is a listing I'll pull up here in a minute. DC, which is, I think, data something for the, or data clock? No, I don't know what DC stands for, but it's part of the SPI bus. There's MISO, MOSI, SEK, that one's clock, and then looks like ground to my eye, then light for the backlight, and then VIN for power. So get that stuff wired up. I guess it maybe is data, but then the data comes on MISO and MOSI. I don't know what DC stands for. Does this say? DC chip select. Okay. Chip select. But these two do say the same thing. Actually, I just noticed that. Do they say the same thing here? It does. What does DC actually stand for? If we just go to like a basic feather RP2040 or something basic. Well, yeah, let's try that one. Does it have a DC labeled? It doesn't. Well, but it would make sense too, though, that it wouldn't, because that was just having it connected to like D6 or whatever. Let's look at the previous page back here. Data or command selector. Data or command select. So it probably stands for like data command, or I see. How's it going, Axel Magnus? Good morning. And C. Grover as well. Trying to pick a TFT display candidate to piggyback on, or to piggyback on a Eurorack. Oh, nice. Display I/O, kind of the same topic of your deep dive yesterday. I'll take a look at the ability to add vector I/O stuff without adding the vector shape. We'll see. It refers to an old PR for display I/O layout. Oh, okay. Yeah, I will definitely take a look into that stuff this weekend for sure. I saw, oh, also, let me say, that reminds me too, I saw this also, speaking of display I/O stuff, this person added the polygon stuff that we talked about yesterday into bitmap tools. Matemacheck. That's awesome. So hug reports to this person. I need to remember to put that into the docs for this week. So huge thanks to this person. They basically implemented the draw polygon function so that inside bitmap tools, you would be able to now, so like currently the functions that are there are fill region, that one we implemented yesterday for Blinka, draw line we saw. There's also, I think that's it as far as the basic drawing ones. There's like rotozoom and dither and boundary fill is the other one that's like relatively basic one. But we talked about polygon when we ran across it yesterday when I was working on the fill region and the line. They have come and actually implemented that into the core, so that is awesome. We will try this out a bit later on as well, hopefully, as long as we can get the display set up and working. In progress board design. Oh, that's looking pretty sweet. Yeah, I like that with the board on the, the display rather on the top half there. Is that what that essentially is, the display up there with the knob below it? Nice. Okay, so we will need, so I guess, do I want to use the Raspberry Pi? So I was going to try to kind of feed a bunch of birds with one scone, as they say, or they don't usually say that. They usually put it another way that's a bit less fun, but I like to say feed birds with a scone. There's also a PR that's open for this, which is basically adding some setup pins for Raspberry Pi Pico because they're slightly different than the setup pins for the other devices. So the display I have, I think, is this display. So yeah, I'm going to start with the Raspberry Pi Pico, well, Pico W that's here. We're going to try to connect that, and then if everything all goes well, we could actually try out this PR at the same time. We'll see if everything goes well. Sometimes it doesn't, but That's what the kind of idea will be here, is if we can test that out as well as getting the iSpy set up, and then once we get the actual display working as well, what I'll try to do is test out this polygon. And so I'm gonna definitely need a Pico W wiring diagram because it's on the bottom of the board and I can't see it. Is there one in here? Pinouts? Nah, not actually. It doesn't look like it. It's just because it's on Adafruit board. Twitter feed, Adafruit IO, Picadoo, settings. Yeah, doesn't seem like it. Let's go Pico W pinout. I know there's ones out there. I've definitely used them before. Make sure it's the W with the silver thing there. I don't know if there's any major differences between the W and the regular, but I definitely don't want to risk it if there are. Should save this somewhere. Okay. So we're not actually using a Feather or an M4 Metro, so instead we're using the Pico W, but we basically will be making a bunch of the same connections. Ground to ground seems easy enough, so let's start with that. And I'll probably just have to kind of pull this back, and because I can't really see it all the way over there. Make out the fine detail of which breadboard row I'm in through the camera. That, and then our grounds go, there's what's the one closest to the bottom edge? Maybe 18 or 23, which are both the third one in from the bottom. There we go. I tend to do power last. I don't know if that's bad or good or superstitious or makes any sense or not, but I tend to do ground first and then all the data stuff, all the other things, and then power last. So even though I'm not plugged into USB right now and there's no actual power flowing, I tend to do it that way. So then we'll go clock, and for clock we need to find, well, we need to choose if we're going to use SPI 0 or SPI 1. So with the Pico, there's actually multiple hardware SPI buses. I think I'll say, I will say the one towards the back half are kind of convenient because they are closer. So I guess let's go with SPI 1. Is those 4 pins there are towards the back half, which means our SCK is GP10 or gray box 14, or how I'm going to do it, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th pin from the end for clock. SCK, 7th pin from the end on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. And SCK is the next one after ground. Mostly, so this is where it's not labeled the exact same. So MOSI is main out, or microcontroller out. I think that's the terminology that we landed on. Microcontroller out, serial in, MOSI. Microcontroller out, so then that would be, I assume, TX, microcontroller out transfer, as opposed to receive. So that is the next one down. And it's mostly on the breakout. It's actually the next one. Whoop. You ground / neutral first, then data, then power. Nice. Okay, yeah, that's basically the same. Basically the same way I do it. Let me catch up here. There's a nice breadboard for the Pico that prints the pin numbers. Maybe the printing. I have seen JP's little printout thing. And there was one where the pins went sideways. I think there was one with right angle pins as well, with little stickers or something that did it. The breadboard, I don't know if I've seen the breadboard, actually. That sounds pretty cool. Hmm. Is it the same for the Pico W? See, ground is the same at least. I mean, that would have been really rude of them to change, like, power and ground, I guess, right? Like, hopefully it's the same. But even if there's a minor difference, hopefully it wouldn't have been power and ground. $5? I'd have to throw that one in for the next order. Chip select. They've said D5, but basically we just get to pick whatever we want. The miso is actually what's next in line, but we're not using that to start with because we only would need it for the SD card. Was it DC? That says CS. Is there actually a CS? That is dumb. ECS. And the SDCS is actually on the other side, I think. So if we wanted to use the SD card, I would actually need to solder another pin or something. CS, so I'm assuming TCS is the... Yeah. There's TFTCS there. And it is TCS there. Let's look at, there's a list in order, I want to say, right? On the bottom, or? Yeah, was that on this page? I thought I remembered one where it had them in order of bottom row pins, top row pins. Could be changed too. This is like still in the works, I think. Could also just be misremembering. So they used D6. I think it really doesn't matter for us as long as we don't use one of the other, like we're still going to need some more of the... Well, actually, we could use, we should be able to use this, right? Is this a hardware chip select? Is it better than just using a random one? So that's skip RX, and then CS is the next one after that. ECS. RST, they've just picked 9. And that one, there is not an RST, so we'll just use... I mean, well, does this interfere if this is SP... This is SPY1 CS and this is SPY... No, I don't think it does interfere, right? Because it's not like... It can be either, but it's not like both. I think that's how it goes. So I'll actually just go ahead and use 9. Might as well just keep it nice and easy. Reset is the next one in from here. And then we basically have one ground on the far side of SCK, and then CS is GP9 after that. So we're now left with just DC, which will go... They did it to D6. They call SPY chip select pin. So we don't have, yeah, there's not a DC one of any of these. So I think this one we do also basically can just pick anything we want. I'll go GP8, or what did they said? They did what on this one? They did 6. Do we have 6 open? We do actually, so we could use 6. Might as well. Which is, so from 9, which we used before, it's blank, blank, and then 6. Don't need one that long. Blank, blank. CS can be anything. It's a selection pin on in GPIO can do it, I believe. Cable select. The bus is used for multiple devices. It'll tell you, and you tell it which device to talk to. Yeah, but I think is this one chip select the same? Just like Raspberry Pi has kind of a hardware one where the feather doesn't necessarily, or it's labeled that way. I don't know if it's any different. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like kind of a suggestion or something, and you could use any for it if you wanted. That should be everything, I think, for the display, so... I have the cable. I do need to probably... see the page again where the actual, Oh, this is probably the page where I saw the, other pins, maybe. Yeah, TCS is there. This is the page I'm thinking of. So we need to go, looks like blue up. So you flop the door up, you go blue side up, flop the door back down, and do it the same way on the other side. the door up. Blue side up. Okay, I gotta pull it back here. Is it, does it actually like push in any, or does it just rest? Try to compare. So that's like, what, maybe 1/4 inch or something? One does kind of look like it has less blue showing. Not sure if I actually got it in all the way. So it didn't really like push in at all. It just kind of gets to the edge and then stays there. Can't really push it farther, or maybe maybe it's not lined up right, maybe I'm not pushing it quite right. It's like that little chunk. Like it chunks in a little bit there. I did not really feel that when I plugged it in. We'll see. I don't know if mine's in right. It's any MCU with the iSpy connector already available. I don't know of any. Yeah, I don't know of any. That will be awesome though once they start coming out, if they do. Maybe if you use PO for SPY and you want to control things, pick the pin close in numbering. Okay. Did you pull the black thing? I did. Yeah, I put the I popped the little door flappy thing up and then put it in, and then put that little flap back down, little latch thing. I think I'll have to move this again. Sorry, I can't really do this bit on camera. Also, we want blue side up, which means this actually has to kind of turn here. This way. Okay. We should have used the shorter one after all. I went with the longer cable because I figured it'd be easier to maneuver if I needed to. But I actually do have the shorter ones as well. About like that for now. Oh. Surprised that didn't have Python on it already? What was that? That's interesting. Inserted the cable. Oh, if inserted correctly, the cable should be held under tension of the contacts before closing the cap. Closing the flap. I don't know that I got mine there. I think I'm gonna try it and see though, because I'm never gonna. Without actually like feeling it once, I don't know that I'm gonna know if it's right or not, even if it is. But if we run the code and it doesn't do anything, then we know it's not right. Or we know something's not right at least. It's like maybe it got it there and it's just, maybe it's less than what I'm expecting. Maybe I actually didn't get it. So actually we need that ST, because I'm pretty sure, let me look up this device actually. I'm pretty sure this device is that ST78 whatever. This one is 1.54. Oh, yeah, it says on the top there, ST7789, I guess. Actually, just going to start with the plain simple test. Actually, that is right, isn't it? It's doing the scanning thing again. I feel like it was stuck doing that yesterday. I kind of chalked it up to the fact that we were using SSH back the file system that we were working on. Don't really have much faith that that's going to finish. I'm gonna try that. How's it going, K-Match? Good morning. And Johnny as well. Johnny Bergdahl and Dexter also. I'm gonna try this. Where is that actually at? File. Doesn't say end restart anymore. All right, we'll see if it finishes. I mean, it's gonna do that. It's not. I'm not expecting it to not scan. I just don't get the sense it was ever gonna complete because I think it did that the entire time I worked yesterday. I guess we could do some excluding. Oh, I know what the problem is. I have extra hard drive plugged in right now, and apparently that is shows up under media. I added media to the project so that I could see all the CircuitPython devices. Okay, we've come full circle. I get it now. Yeah, mostly I just want to know the order of the pins to put in this, which is where we started here. Clock, and then MOSI, and then MISO. So for us, that's I chose to use SPY1 down here. Clock was GP10. MOSI was GP11. You don't necessarily need the next one actually, because we're not sending data back the other way right now. Half duplex, I think we'll just leave. Not sure what that does. CS we did 13. And DC we did 9 or 09? Just 9. Probably. I didn't actually see 9, but I saw 1. And then reset, which we did 6. $42.40 row start? I'm not sure. I guess we'll leave that. 40, so this will make the purple and green hello world thing. Everything works. Module. Yeah, there's actually going to be a bunch of those, truthfully. Let's just go circup install auto. Should make a new coffee, maybe. Okay, not looking good. Oh, I never connected power. Yeah. That one might be important, I think, right? Just a little bit. Now we do have the ribbon cable all plugged in too. Let's see, that was VIN, which is far side here. Too many now. Revolt. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th from the top right. Okay, let's try that again. Saw the backlight. Looks like only the backlight. We didn't actually connect the light pin. However, I think optional. It's the optional. It's by default pulled high. Backlight on. Okay, we do release displays. Okay. Things seems particularly problematic in the script here. Let's double check our wiring. Power is definitely working this time. I probably can't really make it come through the camera. But at the exact right angle, you can see that the backlight is now on. In fact, I can see that there's a plastic protector on top with a line drawn through it. We can actually get it to turn on. We'll see that. Oh, I think I might see one problem. I have too many of these open again. This has reset on 9 and DC on 6, and I'm pretty sure I followed that, but I'm pretty sure I put them wrong here. Ah, there we are. Okay, so we are plugged in. It just doesn't, well, I mean, either it's not quite connected as snugly as it should be, but it still works anyway, or it is connected correctly, and I just kind of assumed that it would kind of push in a little bit farther by itself, but Either way, we got exactly right, as we got pixels, and that is what we're concerned about mostly. So let's build this and then run it on there and use it to make a polygon. This is probably going to take it a second to pull. So what I'm gonna do is start this pulling and then run and make myself a new copy real quick. New coffee real quick. This we were playing with git checkout -b. We were playing with bus.io spy fallback. I can just commit it. I don't really need to push it. It didn't end up working. And when I want to get back to it, I'll just pick it up from here. We do actually get it working. Let's see. Now, what do we have for... update. There we go. Okay, BRB. I'm gonna make a coffee. Just the first drawing. Here, I'll put the you can see it. Put that back on the screen. This thing down here is what's working now, I think. Updated. Right. This is one of the projects where the list is a little bit less helpful because it's much longer list. I could look through it, but whoops. I always forget about that. Should start using that. In fact, maybe that would be a convenient place to put like camera controls or another browser tab. I don't know how to move stuff to it though. So it's like, I mean, I could like shuffle it, I guess. So it has to go here, in here. Oh, it's gone now. Oh, now there's 3. Oh, these keep going. Oh, wow, okay. Interesting. Any new bitmap tools or core? So yeah, actually, funny you should mention it. That's what I'm going to look at here. Somebody actually put in polygons for bitmap tools. Just like yesterday they did this. I mentioned this kind of offhandedly on the deep dive, and they went and implemented it already. What's the other new stuff? Did you see like the dithering algorithms that Jeff did? I don't remember if that was before or after you stepped back a bit. I saw the announcement for ESP32P4. Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. Be a nice platform for fast display. Most amazing news is the DVI interface was connected to a TFT displaying on an HDMI screen. Ooh, that's pretty sweet. I want Lady Auto to build iSpy to DVI HD with SD board. RP2040, everything needed, and you don't need to use the Pimeroni. Dithering will have to, yeah. The Jeff, I think it was Jeff, I want to say, implemented a couple of different dithering algorithms to choose from. I have actually yet to play with them, but I'm interested in doing it. And then another thing that's in kind of quasi bitmap tools news is I'm working on implementing bitmap tools inside Blinka Display IO. So right now it's in the core, we can use it there, but it's actually not implemented in Blinka Display IO yet. So if you tried to write portable code, it wouldn't work very well. Last night we did the fill region, which is basically the rectangle one inside Blinka Display IO. Okay, I will be right back. The kettle is hot now, so I'm going to go pour my coffee and then come back for good. Okay. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about the Alpha Blend one. Yeah, to combine. That's another one I have yet to play with so far. You want to do that as well. Okay. We are going to Music going on this side, maybe. Okay. So this is 7471 GHPR checkout 7471. So for a POW build, we're gonna go ports, Raspberry. I don't think I did copy. Oh my goodness. I did paste. It's not only not copy, it is like... I can't even do like... Oh, and it entered a bunch of them. Oh my goodness. All right. Oops. Accidentally pasted a bunch of Python code into the terminal. You need to, is there like a, there's not like a ESP IDF or anything to set up for this one, is there? Make, this should be shoddy. Now we can remake 80s VHS video effects with the alpha blend. Nice. Okay. Oh. Dun dun dun. No reset button. One. Actually, I'm just gonna use my hub has a button actually, so I can just hold boot select and then power it up. I can go unplug, hold boot select, plug, go boot select. Go. Okay. Well, that's interesting. It's like it drew what was there last time for a second. Interesting. So we want to basically use draw polygon. So what are we? Oh, slowly pulling. Should stop right there, I think. So we make 2 bitmaps. One is full size. And they make a smaller one. I'm just gonna get rid of the smaller one. I'm gonna get rid of the label. I'm gonna go with just the big bitmap. We're gonna have just green. But I'm actually gonna change the palette Kind of want that code from yesterday. I don't know why that's not showing up. It'd be interesting if there was another helper function inside Rainbow IO that would generate and return to you a list. So you could say, I want a palette that is 10 colors, and it would give you back a list of 10 colors that are equally spaced throughout the rainbow, which is essentially what this for loop ended up doing, although it's hard-coded at 10 instead of just equally spaced. But that would be kind of a nice extra helper if you could just tell it the number of colors you want, and it would give you back a palette that is preset on those colors with the maximum sort of amount of distance between them as it can within the whole rainbow. I think we get red by default, maybe, right? Yeah. Red is 0. Oh, it didn't work. Something, I guess, it depends what you hover on. You have to hover on the bar. Oh. 1 second also, I'm gonna look at something over here. Okay. What does the signature look like here? So draw polygon, we go destination bitmap, X's and Y's. Okay, so we need to separate our points into lists of X's and lists of Y's. Oh, wait, what? That one says readable buffer, but that one down there says int. I think they should be, it's probably one or the other. I think I would assume it's a list of X's. That's what I would assume, XS. X pixel position. Okay, so let's try just making a square by saying, oh, that's interesting. It brings me back. Okay, that's good to know. Map tools dot. Was it just draw polygon or? Yeah. It won't show up in here because this is looking at the stubs, which are like current from whatever I installed. We could build the stubs and install them from that branch, and then theoretically this would get filled in, but that's all right. Color bitmap. So now we need X's and Y's. Let's say we want to make just like 50 by 50 rectangle. And to start with, I'm going to go nice and easy and just go top left corner. Hey there, I heard the jingle. See if I make it back in time. Thanks for the follow there on Twitch, Weekend6. Appreciate that, my friend. X's. So let's just go top left corner. So like 0, 0 is our first point. I'm just going to do them like this because I'm used to thinking of it as XY rather than like X, 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 X. So we'll go 0, 0. We'll go like 50, 0. We'll go 50, 50. and then we'll go 0, 50. Color value, I'll just pick 5. Actually, I think we did 5 yesterday. Let's do like, what is 3? Let's see what 3 is. Do we need anything else? Close. Defaults to true. And we do want it to be true in our case. Otherwise, we won't have full polygon. Or it would be a triangle instead of a, I don't know. I don't pretend. I shouldn't pretend to know. I'd have to draw it and look. I can't really visualize. I'm not great with visualizing geometry before it's actually drawn. What does that say? Object with buffer protocol. Ah, okay, so those lists are not it, huh? Mutable buffer. But then that just says int on that one. Would show transcript help? Show transcript on YouTube, I think you mean? You're learning Python. Hey, that's awesome. That's good to hear. Definitely big fans of Python around here. MP get buffer raised, so this must be what raised the exception that we saw. I'm sure this is really basic. This is just me not knowing the right type, I think. Is it, or like, is a byte array different than a list or something? Is that like, are we supposed to be using like a byte? Of bytes? Out of range of target. Actually, that's because of this. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so those don't fill in either, I see. Okay, but then you could still use boundary fill, obviously, if you wanted to fill it in. So let's do it, actually. XY, so we'll just say 25, 25, which would be somewhere in the middle. Fill value 3. I don't know if you need to do the last one or not. Nope, don't need to. Okay. I wonder if that could be a list. I wonder if that has to be bytes. Get buffer raise. Or a tuple? What is something else that's in the core that takes a list? Okay, but I'm afraid some human summary is needed. Could be crowd made. Maybe just put in a comment. How's it going, Han Sohai, over there on Twitch? Thanks for tuning in, my friend. Am I senior Python? I don't know. I don't necessarily spend a lot of time thinking about the labels on myself. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I work full-time, like 4 days a week on a job where I make, among other things, I make, like, create, maintain, develop for a web application that is built with Python Django framework. I am the most senior developer we have, but that's like really overselling it because the truth is just I'm one of two and the other person is newer. And that's just kind of how it is. I was one of the people who made the system that I work on. The others that made it with me back at the beginning have moved on to other things. But it's like kind of half and half. That job is like half building that Python web framework, but it's also half like working on Android devices that connect up to it. So it's kind of like half and half on that front. And then on Mondays, I work on CircuitPython stuff, which is what I'm working on here as well, obviously on this stream, which is not exactly working on, in Python in the same way, but obviously is like, very into the Python ecosystem, even if not technically the same Python. So I don't know. Notice quite a number of people with the name Twitch. Twitch foam pit, what's the deal? My only guess about that would be that they are talking about that person who got hurt in the foam pit at TwitchCon, but that is not at all what my name is a reference to. Do you use tools like MyPy? We used MyPy, kind of. We used MyPy to create a list of typing information that we wanted to fill in. We have not added MyPy to our automation yet, so it's not in the continuous integration. Like, we have continuous integration in all the repos on GitHub. MyPy is not part of the checks that run yet. We're trying to get the bulk of the types done before we turn that on, so we have used it, but it's not in regular use yet. Have an AI do it? Maybe vector IO. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good thought. We say Mondays are your best day of the week. I like Mondays a lot. I like my other job a lot of the time as well. There are more things certainly about my other job that I dislike than there are CircuitPython. But that being said, I do like and appreciate my other job as well, and I like the person I work with most closely as well. So it's like I like that job as well. But I definitely do enjoy Mondays working on CircuitPython quite a bit. Also, vector IO, you put the point in the polygon in a list of tuples, I think. Good call. I'm just going to jump to the code. I actually have one of these things. Oh, no, it's not on this computer. I wonder if you can import these. Save as. Yeah, I need to copy those from my old computer. Get all this closed. Points. Type list. This seems odd, right? Check the length and the size. There's some way those could be different? Got buff. Wait, what? Two different ways to specify a list of points for drawing a polygon. Maybe you should choose one and stick with it, or support both. I mean, they achieve different things. Like, they do both draw a polygon, so in that sense, they are doing similar things, but the main difference is Vector.io gives you a polygon object that is an object itself that you can move the XY coordinates around on and do stuff with, whereas Bitmap Tools paints a rectangle into a large enough bitmap. So the primary difference would be, let's say you wanted to have 2 polygons, for instance, or more, any more than one. With Vector.io, you would need to instantiate multiple polygon objects, and then you could add each of them to a group, and you could show them on the display. And then each one is its own object, and each one has its own XY and everything. They're all objects that you can interact with and move around. If you use Bitmap Tools, however, you can instantiate just a single bitmap, for instance, one that's the size of the display, and then you can, the way I think of it is you can paint those polygons into the bitmap. So they're not their own object. The bitmap is the only object, and what draw polygon in Bitmap Tools is doing is it's just painting a polygon into those pixels, and it's not leaving you with an object that you can then go change the XY coordinates of or do anything with, right? If you wanted to change this polygon after the fact, you would need to paint something new in its place. You know, you could cover it up and then draw it somewhere else, or you could cover it up and then draw something else. But it's not its own object. So that's kind of the main difference. You could theoretically draw infinite polygons into this bitmap and never run out of memory, because you're always just using the bitmap you already have, whereas you could not make infinite Vector.io polygons because each one is its own object. Now, obviously, infinite things there's not a great reason why you would ever need that, but that's kind of the core difference between the two philosophies. The other thing I will say is I did the other difference, I'm pretty sure. We'll have to double check this one because I'm not actually like 100% positive, but I believe, so the way we drew this first, the polygon is not filled in, so it's just the outline of a polygon. I think that Vector.io is not like that. Oh, our browser tab for this one is gone. It's here, I guess. Okay. can be minimized on the other screen. That's a bit odd. Just need to import. And then I should say, actually, display shapes, the library, is also in the mix. So technically, there's another way to draw polygons. But the key difference between display shapes, the library, versus bitmap tools, well, I mean, one of the key differences is that display shapes, the library, behaves more like vector IO. When you make a polygon, it's going to give you an object. That object's going to be a bitmap instead of a vector IO thing or whatever. But it's still making an object. It has an XY. You could move it around, which is nice. The other difference, though, is that this inside the core bitmap tools, this will be faster than display shapes because the code that's doing the drawing under the hood is in C rather than in Python, like it is with display shapes. So yes, it does introduce kind of a few different ways to achieve the same visual output, but there are other like pluses and minuses, pros and cons for the different things, and in some cases, some actual visual differences. Like I don't believe that you can make a vector IO that's not filled. However, I'm not sure, so that's what I'm trying to test here, although I need a palette to do it. Do we just use the same palette, I guess? And I think you can go, is it color index or something? Isn't there a way to... Color index. Going to the wrong one. Okay, yeah. So our vector IO polygon, it's filled. It happens to be somewhat of a thin polygon, so to speak. So it's like 5, 120. Let's make this one bigger, like 100, 100, 120. Now we got a polygon, but that's filled. Whereas this one, you could actually do an outline only if you wanted, which is kind of nice. I and K-Match were thinking about using vector IO for drawing the polygons in a sparkline as opposed to the bitmap thingy to save memory. Could it work? I don't know. That's the kind of thing, like, I would say, like, I would not trust my guess to be correct, so it's the kind of thing where, unfortunately, it's probably like I just have to do it both ways and then measure. Typically, vector IO shapes tend to use a little bit less RAM, but I think it depends a lot on the size and the actual shape. And lines might be one where it's different. I don't actually know. But I also haven't done really like thorough testing. The only one that I've compared at all was circles, and I didn't really compare. I mostly compared like how many circles you could make before you ran out of memory. And you can make more vector IO circles before you run out of memory than you can display shape circles, which are bitmaps. But if you had like bitmap tools, so back to what I was talking about before, bitmap tools is simply painting into a bitmap, so to speak. It's not making an object. So with bitmap tools, you could actually draw theoretically infinite shapes without running out of RAM, because you're you're always drawing into the same bitmap. You're not consuming any extra memory when you draw something. Memory's already there, and it just has a different color stored in it, and you're flipping the bits to make it a different one. Could bitmap tools be used to animate details inside of a movable sprite object, like flashing a laser gun, housing of a ship? It's a good question. I mean, it's possible that it can. Certainly, like, technologically, it can repaint some of the pixels for you. I will say right now it doesn't, like, it's mostly good with primitive shapes. Like, it has the fill region, it has now the polygon. I was thinking the other day a circle might be kind of nice to add to it, but it's not there already. It has roto zoom, which is like Swiss Army knife amazing, allows you to kind of like copy paste, distort, scale, you know, rotate pretty much anything. So you could certainly get a lot done with that one. The tricky part about using bitmap tools for something like that, though, is the fact that you probably want to undo it, right? Like, I'm assuming what you mean is like you draw it, you know, glowing for a few frames while the laser is firing, and then you draw it not glowing afterwards to go back to normal. If you have actual objects, like if you use a tile grid, for instance, and a sprite sheet, you'd be able to just change the index of which sprite is there. You have one sprite tile that is the glowing ship gun. You have one sprite tile that is the non-glowing ship gun. You switch between those two tiles, and the visual effect you get is that it looks like it's glowing for a little bit, and then it turns off, and it's no longer glowing. With bitmap tools, it depends on the glow effect. It might be kind of hard for doing the undo, right? Because it doesn't track, like, there is no just, like, hidden true, or there's no way to just, like, undo what you did. You have to repaint over the same pixels, so it could be done, but I don't know how fast it would be, and whether it would be any... I don't know if there would be any speed improvement over tile grid. Tile grid is the thing I think that makes that visual thing the easiest to code, is tile grid, but it's possible that maybe bitmap tools or maybe something else might end up somehow being faster, to where, like, maybe you wouldn't see it render the pixels, or maybe it could go more frames per second changing or something. I don't actually know if it would or not, but I do know that the code will end up being a fair bit more gnarly than it would with tile grid and a sprite sheet, where you can just simply swap the indexes of the sprite to say, you know, show the regular ship now, and then change it over to the index of the ship with the glowy bit. Let's make a cooler polygon. Right now we just have a square, which is not very fun. I mean, squares are kind of fun. I don't mean to dog on squares that much. But I'm sure we could come up with something more fun than a square. Got a sort of a kite thing going on there. You can make the same one. Not sure what you mean. Like, you can paint over it by just painting the same pixels again? Oh, make the same shape as this one. That's... yeah, I could do that. Sorry, I think that's probably what you mean in hindsight. Be interesting to see if they line up, right? Looks bigger. Is that just me? Is it some, like, is that a, what do they call that? Illusion, not, well, I mean illusion. Is that a, optical? I guess optical illusion is the word. Is that an optical illusion because this one's not filled and this one is? Does it make it look bigger because it's an outline or something? So the tough part, I guess let's just not move this, and then it should be like one on top of the other. Yeah, actually, it is the same. Yeah, it is the exact same size. Wow, that's crazy. It totally did look different, right? Am I? Yeah, that is insane. That totally looks bigger, right? Okay, you know one thing I will say? Looking directly at the screen, it doesn't look that different. Looking through the camera here, honestly, it does look like this one is bigger and this one is smaller, but just looking direct, that effect is way, way, way less. So the camera somehow is influencing that as well. I do not have a joystick hooked up, unfortunately, but I can change the code. Technically, our vector one is on top. It makes some interesting effects by doing both, like this was like one point outside of all of these. I don't know, would it be, it's 19? How do I know how am I knowing to go up or down on these? I feel like I'm going the right way, but I don't know why it's the right way. It's on the outside of the point? Any sense? Oh, now it's hidden. That did not work at all. Oh, because I made the polygon bigger. Whoops. Meant to make the line bigger. Nice. Now it's like 1 pixel outside, so it gives you like a really pronounced outline effect. It's only 1 pixel wide, so like it doesn't necessarily come through the camera all that well, if I'm honest. But it's kind of a nice looking effect. It looks like they're drawn together. Okay, so I think the biggest thing to me is I wish that these were lists instead of needing the bytes. I don't know of anything else in CircuitPython where it's expecting what is essentially a list, but it's wanting you to pass it as bytes like this. So I think it would be more natural if you could just give it a list or a tuple. Will this one let you do a tuple? I'm actually curious. Or does that crash? It does crash, which is interesting. It would kind of be nice if you could do either, because I assume a tuple is slightly more efficient since it's can't be added to or whatever. It's immutable. But honestly, beyond that, this is looking pretty sweet to me. Let's try close false. I don't know what, I'm not sure what that would do with our shape. Let's turn off our vector IO one for now. I guess it would not draw this line here. Yep. Does this have something like that? No. Okay, let me catch up. Going the same one, move it with the joystick. Wondering if you can vector IO into a bitmap? You can vector IO into a bitmap rather than screen and then just use that rather than bitmap tools. To the best of my knowledge, no, not with the current APIs. With the current APIs, vector IO essentially gives you back like a kind of like a tile grid, basically, an object that's ready to be added to a group that can then be shown on a display. I don't believe the way that it works today that it can like draw itself inside of a given bitmap rather than in the display, although that might be an interesting like way to use it. If the API could be changed to do it that way, that might be kind of cool. And then that would essentially cover a fair amount of the use case of what this bitmap tools is doing here, if that were possible. Like totally replacing one of the alternative by the other. Could the library version of vector IO in Python versus a kernel implementation in C? I've been following enough the teamwork to have a clear proposal, but I feel some things could be unified. It is possible, probably, that there could be some unification. I think the key thing right now, though, is that while there are a few different ways to do it, they all have slightly different pros and cons at this point. If the APIs could be morphed such that one could be used in place of another, and you could achieve the literal exact same thing, then I think unifying is definitely in order. But while there are still, even if relatively small, pros and cons for the different ones, or slight differences in which shapes you can actually achieve with one versus the other, I think it makes sense to have the options available, just because different people's projects have different constraints. So one person may not care about memory, they may care about like drawing speed, but another person may not care about drawing speed at all, but they do care about memory. Maybe their project is close to the limit on memory. Maybe somebody else just values the fact that they have prior knowledge of bitmap graphics or something as well. And so there's kind of like, while the different ways can add to confusion, I do think like when they actually do have differences, they're also good in a way as well, because they allow people to kind of choose the ones that are best for their project. Now the hurdle is like, does each person who has each different project actually know all the different ways, and can they, do they actually have the ability to know what the pros and cons are and therefore know which one is quote unquote best for their project? That part is kind of difficult and gets more difficult the more ways there are to do it, right? So double-edged sword, I suppose. Once you decide the size x minus y of the spark line, you can have as many data points as the width with the same memory consumption. You just have to redraw all polygons. Oh, that's right, because it scrolls. You'd have to redraw all the polygons every time you get new data. So if we feed a spark line with a list as opposed to adding points and dynamically update the graph and finally run out of memory, this would help with memory. I do think that, it could help with memory to load everything. If I'm understanding, I'm not 100% sure that I'm understanding correct, but my understanding of your question is like, would it help Sparkline use less memory if you loaded all the points into it up front rather than doing add point over time? And I don't know off the top of my head the answer to that. My assumption would be that you probably would save a little bit of RAM, because my assumption is that add point creates variables and does stuff internally. So if not saving RAM, I guess on the long term, you might save time from the garbage collector, because those variables might just be used only inside and then get thrown away and then garbage collected later. If nothing else, though, what I will say is, like, if you had that list at initialization time, you could certainly speed up the drawing, right? Because you would only have to draw it once. You would never have to redraw all the lines, like you said. Like today, once you get past the end or whatever, you add the next point and then everything has to shift, which means everything has to be redrawn. If you weren't adding points one at a time and instead were always initializing it with a static set of points, then you would not really have that idea. But obviously then the problem is you can't just continue to feed live data from a sensor or something, which is kind of like I think one of the primary things people want to do with it. So it's like you do away with the redraws, but in that sense you also lose kind of the idea, the ability to just keep adding a new data point every time a new one comes in from your sensor. Okay. I think this was a change request from a couple of weeks back, and original contributor hasn't come back for a little while. Since November, it looks like. I believe this is only a very minor change to swap from basically back to using board.spy, which is what it was doing initially. And this PR had changed it, because of course board spy doesn't work on Pico, which is what they were trying to do. I don't think we need the extra period there. And I think we do want board.spy instead. And this is really the meat of the change, which is adding the Pico. One more thing I guess that might be nice would be to add that this is like specifically spy bus. I guess it would probably be 0. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is swap that back and commit. That way we can kind of try to finish up the review on that one. We just put the alternative. Oh yeah, it is comment. Yep. They were, yeah, they just wanted to have it there for folks that were using the Pico. It's tough. I really wish that the Pico could have the same pin names. The thing is, it's so much more adaptable, but I wish like I almost wish like GPI 2, 3, and 4 and 5. I almost wish these could be, or really, I guess it would just be 2, 3, and 4. I almost wish these could be like SCK, Mosi, Miso. Because then it would be compatible. Like it would be a little bit misleading because it would make it kind of seem like that is the spy bus, which is of course not the case on this device. There's, first of all, 2 sets of spy buses that you can use, and they're also all able to morph around and be on different pins and stuff, which is crazy. But if those were named that, at least as the default ones, it would make it so that we don't actually need different code for this, which would be kind of nice. But an empty directory. Maybe I'll make a copy of the Raspberry Pi Pico W, but change just the silk screen to have SCK Mosi Miso, and then make a CircuitPython board definition that matches the new silk screen. And theoretically, you could use that on the other devices as well. Is that too much to go through? It might be too much to go through. I don't know the license for the Pico either. I don't know if that's like allowed to release one that's the same or whatever. Why is ST not in the list, I wonder? Said it was, okay, yeah, it's there. It's just not in the recents, I guess. Oops. I guess main is what the PR is set to. Yeah. Apparently I have changes that aren't pushed. Oh, I don't know. Okay, cancel this. Let's just roll back all the way and then pull. In fact, I don't even know. I don't know where we're at here. I'm just gonna check out main, delete this altogether in my local here. Check it back out again. And fetch first though. Update that. I don't know if it matters. You can make an alias in Python. In I mean in the board Pi, CircuitPython? I'm not sure what you mean make an alias in Python. Or like when you import it or something? Could you make aliases for the pin names so you could use either? I think you could inside of the core in board Pi, but I think the thing is that they wouldn't. I haven't talked to anybody about it, but generally the name that they want on the board object is the same name as what's on the silk screen. So while you could theoretically go make an alias for SCK and it could be pin GP2, technologically that can work. I think there would likely be pushback against that since it's different than what's on the silk screen. And in this case, the other thing I think working against it is it kind of implies that that is the SPI bus, when in reality, it's a lot more murky since there's technically two, and since either one of them actually has multiple sets of pins that it can actually be exposed through. So it's like, it makes it feel like it's not as adaptable as it is if those are just labeled and aliased, because at some point, like, you're making an arbitrary choice to say pin 234 are SCK Mosi Miso. It could just as easily be, 6, 7, 0. Or it could just as easily be 10, 11, 12. Or 14, 15, wherever the other one for this one is. And so it's kind of an arbitrary choice. So I suspect they would not want it there since it's somewhat misleading, even though, like, personally, I would find it to be more convenient. RP2040 stamp. Made some choices for the I2C, I believe, following what everybody else does. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know there was one already that had some kind of aliases in it, so maybe they're more open to it than I'm thinking. Like I said, I have not actually discussed with anybody, but I think it would be nice. I think it would be convenient if there was at least a default. Granting that defaults sometimes cause other confusion, but I think it would be overall for the better if there was a default rather than today where there isn't one and you just have to go and find the right pins. But I do grant that it's a trade-off for sure. I just happen to fall on the side of I think it's worth it. Mark Magukin, M-A-R-C. M-A-R-K. I know the rest of it now. M-C-G-O-O. .47. Actually, I don't Maybe I was thinking I could test this, but the truth is actually I don't have the exact right screen. 1.47 is not one I got. Got 1.54, I got 1.3, I got one that's 1.5. I will try to double check as best as I can though. So it would be SCK on 2. Yep. Mosi on 3. Miso on 4. You don't need if you're not using the SD card. They did chip select on 5. Okay. And then these two don't matter. 6 and 7 for DC and RST, which is fine. Doesn't really matter what you pick for those, as far as I know. Oh dear. Only have 1 hour to complete my turn. Okay. Did you make the aliases dynamic so that the code that needs... Make the aliases dynamic so that the only code that needs to change is the alias list based on your wiring? I think so. I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but I think so. What I'm understanding is you're asking is like, could you have like a pins list or something like this, and then you just change it in here, and then the rest of the code doesn't need to change? That's what you're asking. I do believe you could. Although having them as variables with names, I think, is nice because it just tells you which pin it is as well, rather than just like index 0 in the list is SDK or whatever. Stamp is special because you plug that into the holding board, but to avoid defining all the names, a special file you might import. Every time new data comes in, you FIFO the list and then that the sparkline uses and then redraw. It'll take more time possibly. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you put them all in up front, you could still add data by just making the new list and then building a new one. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know for sure what the trade-off would end up being. Probably just have to try it out and see. I do not trust myself to understand enough of what's going on in there to really be able to form a hypothesis that I have any kind of confidence in. I'm gonna let this actions finish here. I'm gonna put an approve on this, and I think merge it, and then probably call it a day for now. Need to get up and move around a bit, truthfully. Might go for a walk or something. I don't know how cold it is outside. It's supposed to be rainy and snowy, I guess. Any out there yet? I would assume no, but anybody say anything more on this? Not yet. Okay. I'm gonna try to get used to this. I've told myself for a few weeks now that I should try to start using this multi-desktop thingy, and never actually did it. But we'll see. See if it sticks. I didn't realize you could have multiples. I almost wish I could just lock it to 2 so that it's not like overwhelming, and so that it won't go too far. Like having to scroll specifically one little tap on the scroll wheel is kind of awkward. I wish I could just kind of mash it down a bit. I should have ran pre-commit. That's my bad. Yeah. Yeah. What do we want to do? So basically the problem is this is technically unused because it's only used here. Maybe that's why the person left it this way. I kind of could start to see their mindset here. Maybe they sat down and tried this and ran into this and then didn't post anything about it or anything. But yeah, basically this is complaining because this is technically unused since that doesn't use it anymore. So we either need to tell Pylint just ignore it, it's fine, or we could move it to down to here. But Pylint also complains about imports not being at the top, so if you uncommented this now and then ran Pylint, it would still complain about this. But I suppose the person who's uncommenting this is probably just running it on their board, not running Pylint against it, so maybe that does not matter as much. Yeah, I think this is probably the way to go. So we put import here, they'll uncomment all of this, and they'll need to comment this stuff. Close Encounters of the Third Time, the movie. I didn't see which, well, I mean, I saw it, but I don't remember which background. I have a whole, I have a folder of like, it's probably over 100 at this point. Just different random pictures that I think are cool. Every time I see a cool picture on the internet that's big, I download it and throw it in that folder. And then my thing goes random, I think every 5 minutes or something, it switches. What did we change here? Oh, spaces. Because black ran. Cut out the extra spaces, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, I see they shot the movie at this thing. This big mountain thing. There's a name for this thing, I think, but I don't know what it's actually called. Devil's Tower. That's the name I was thinking of, Wyoming. Nice. I have not seen this movie. Is it a good movie? Should I check it out? Nice. Did not know. Good but old. Gonna update? Did I push? Maybe I didn't push. Oh, I did, okay. Just didn't update. Didn't refresh here. Okay. Hopefully this will pass. And like I said, I'm planning, I think, to wrap it up pretty quick after that. So anybody has questions, comments, anything else they would like to say or ask or do before I cut it out for the day, now is the time. May have been spoiled just a little bit. I mean, I certainly am. I've been spoiled the exact right amount in my life, I guess. I'm very privileged in a lot of ways, for certain. Yeah, for sure. Got another +1. I liked it. Gordy G for the movie. Thanks. Hope everybody does have a good rest of your day today and a good weekend and stuff. I will be back. Let's see, I think I'm running the meeting on Monday, so I don't generally stream as much, if at all, on the Mondays when I do run the meeting. But I need to look in the calendar. I'm not actually certain, so I'll have to check that out. But either way, I'll probably be back at some point during this week. And then if not sometime during the week, certainly by Friday for Deep Dive, I'll be back on for Deep Dive for sure. But I'll probably pop in at some point between now and then. I'm actually excited to keep working on the other bitmap tools implementation for Blinka Display IO. And especially now that we have that other new Polygon one, we could start kind of working on that in conjunction, as well as testing some of the other ones like Dither and Alpha Blend, which I haven't done yet. So I'll probably pop back in and stream some of that stuff, because that's what I'm sort of most immediately, what my little puppy dog eyes are excited to work on, basically, in the short term. Okay. I don't know that we need a difference here, but I also don't know that it matters, really. It was always interesting, challenge my thought process. Nice, sparks new learning. I'm glad to hear it. Save Evo one of the steps for releases. I try to remember to do releases after I merge PRs. I can't say as though I'm actually like 100% on it, but (1.5.14). 1515. Maybe prevent having to redraw the whole sparkline bitmap on each update. One option is to scroll to the left by one click using a blot. Blit, I think maybe. Blot? Maybe blot is a different thing. I might just not know the terminology. And then add the newest data line onto the right. Oh, that's interesting. So basically shift everything over to the left one pixel and then add the newest thing to the right there. I wonder what's the fastest way, or what's the fastest way to shift all the pixels to the left one? Okay, 1515, 1514, 1515, okay. All right, and there you have it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody who put some helpful stuff and interacted and just hung out in the chat. Appreciate all of you. Thanks again. Let me say it was great to see both K-Match and Jose David. It's been a little while for seeing both of you. It's super nice to see both of you. Hope everyone has a good weekend as well. Everybody else, I will catch you all next time. Thanks, everybody.